She mistook a millionaire single dad for her $5 blind dad. But that mistake changed everything. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our story. The rain outside the small diner fell in silver sheets, drumming softly against the glass. Inside, the air smelled of coffee and warm bread, a comfort Lucy had been craving after a long week of double shifts. She tugged at the hem of her borrowed dress, smoothing the wrinkles as she looked around nervously. Her friend had signed her up for a budget blind date, one of those silly online challenges called Dinner for $5. The idea was to meet someone new over a cheap meal, and maybe laugh about it later. But the moment she stepped in, Lucy froze. The man sitting at the corner booth looked nothing like the photos her friend had shown her. He was older, dressed in a dark suit that fit too perfectly to be accidental. His watch gleamed under the dim light, and the calm confidence in his posture made him seem out of place in a place like this. Still, he was sitting alone at table number 6, the exact table number her friend had texted. Lucy took a deep breath and forced a smile. "Hi, you must be Daniel, right? I am Lucy." The man looked up from his phone, surprised. His eyes, steady, thoughtful, studied her for a long second before a faint, almost amused smile appeared. "Daniel," he repeated slowly, as if testing the name. "Right. Nice to meet you, Lucy." "Oh." His voice was smooth but tired, the kind of voice that carried weight from things unspoken. She sat down quickly, her heart racing. The waitress came by with 2 menus, and Lucy immediately blurted, "Oh, we can share a sandwich. I do not want you to spend more than $5. The man's brows lifted slightly. "$5? She nodded, cheeks pink. "Yes, that is the whole point of this blind date thing. It is about being simple and real, not fancy." He leaned back, folding his hands together. "Simple and real," he repeated quietly, as if he liked how it sounded. They ordered coffee and a single sandwich to split. For a few moments, neither spoke. Then Lucy started talking about her work at the daycare, the noisy mornings, the joy of the kids who still believed kindness could fix the world. The man listened, really listened, his eyes softening. She had no idea that this man, Adam Carter, was not a struggling teacher or a bored bachelor, but the owner of Carter Holdings, a company whose name was printed on the very newspaper beside them. When the bill came, Lucy reached for it first. "My turn," she said quickly, dropping a crumpled $5 bill on the table. Adam smiled for the first time that night. "I insist," he said, but she shook her head firmly. "A deal is a deal." As she left the diner, the rain had stopped, and the city glowed faintly under the streetlights. Adam watched her through the window, the corners of his mouth curving upward. For the first time in years, someone had treated him like a man, not a millionaire, and that mistake he knew was going to change everything. The next morning, the diner looked completely different without the glow of rain on its windows. The same booth where Lucy had sat now stood empty, a coffee stain marking where she had left her crumpled napkin. Outside, the city stretched awake under a pale blue sky. Cars hummed, storefronts opened. Life moved on. Lucy Monroe hurried down the sidewalk, holding a stack of coloring sheets for the children in her daycare. Her mind kept flashing back to last night. The stranger's calm eyes, the way he listened, how he smiled when she insisted on paying the bill. She felt foolish, yet strangely warmed by the memory. Her friend had texted her an hour later, laughing in disbelief. "Lucy." The real Daniel said, "You never showed up." That was when it hit her she had sat at the wrong table. At first, she covered her face and groaned out loud on the bus. Then she laughed quietly, shaking her head. "Of course, that would happen to me." She promised herself she would never see that man again. But fate has its own plans. Across town, Adam Carter stepped into the glass lobby of Carter Holdings. His assistant greeted him with a nervous smile. "Good morning, Mr. Carter. You have 3 meetings before noon." Adam nodded, his mind half elsewhere. He was known for precision, for never wasting time on small talk. Yet today he found himself distracted by the memory of a woman with gentle eyes who thought a billionaire CEO was a $5 date. For a moment, he had felt ordinary again. That, he realized, was what he missed most. By early afternoon, his day unfolded in its usual rhythm: calls, meetings, contracts. But during lunch, as he opened the newspaper, a small photograph caught his attention. The headline read, "Community Daycare Raises Funds for New Playground." There, among smiling children, stood Lucy, holding a box of crayons. The caption named her Lucy Monroe, teacher and coordinator. Adam felt a flicker of recognition, then something he could not name. He folded the paper carefully, slid it into his briefcase, and for the first time in years, left work early. 2 days later, Lucy stood at the front of her small classroom, helping the children paint paper kites. Laughter filled the room. Paint splattered her apron. She was mid-sentence when the door opened quietly. "Excuse me," said a calm voice. "I am looking for Miss Monroe." Lucy turned. Standing there in a charcoal gray suit was the man from the diner. Her brush froze in midair. "You!" she gasped, before she could stop herself. Adam smiled politely, pretending not to notice her shock. "I believe we had dinner together by accident." The children giggled at the word accident. Lucy's cheeks turned crimson. "This is a daycare, Mr. Carter," he said. "Adam Carter." He walked closer, his presence both steady and gentle. "My daughter attends the kindergarten next door. Her teacher mentioned your program for after-school care." Lucy blinked. "You have a daughter?" "Yes," he replied simply. "Her name is Ava. She is 6 years old." His voice softened when he said it. Lucy exhaled slowly, still embarrassed. "So you were not waiting for a blind date that night?" "No," he admitted, a small smile tugging at his lips. "I was waiting for a business associate, but you were far more interesting." She crossed her arms, trying to hide the nervous flutter in her chest. "You could have told me the truth." "I could have," he said, "but you looked like you needed that dinner more than I did." The children's laughter broke the tension. One of the kids tugged at Lucy's sleeve. "Miss Lucy, is he the man who makes the toys?" Lucy laughed. "No, sweetie, he just makes mistakes, like grown-ups do." Adam chuckled softly. "That is fair." He handed her a small envelope. "This is a donation for your daycare's art supplies. I read about your fundraiser. I hope it helps." She hesitated, staring at the neat handwriting on the envelope. "This is very kind, but I cannot accept charity." "It is not charity," he said calmly. "It is appreciation for the person who reminded me that real things cannot be bought." Their eyes met again, longer this time. Something unspoken moved between them, recognition, perhaps even trust. That evening, as Lucy locked up the classroom, she opened the envelope out of curiosity. Inside was a check, yes, but also a small note, written in careful script. "Thank you for the $5 lesson, Adam Carter." Her heart skipped a beat. She folded the note and placed it gently in her bag. The next morning, she arrived early, still thinking about the message. Just as she unlocked the door, she saw a little girl standing by the gate, clutching a sketchbook. Her dark hair was tied in a ribbon, and her eyes quiet, watchful, were the same deep brown as Adam's. "Hi there," Lucy said warmly. "You must be Ava." The girl nodded shyly. "Daddy said you draw pretty things." Lucy smiled. "Well, your daddy is very kind. Would you like to draw with me while you wait for class?" Ava's eyes brightened. "Can I draw my mom too?" For a moment, Lucy's breath caught, but she nodded gently. "Of course, sweetheart. You can draw whoever you want." Oh. When Adam arrived a few minutes later, he found his daughter sitting beside Lucy, coloring a family of 3, 2 adults, and 1 little girl holding hands under a bright Sunday. He paused at the doorway, the morning light spilling across the floor. Something about the picture, simple as it was, made his chest tighten. Lucy looked up, meeting his eyes. "She is quite the artist," she said softly. Adam smiled, his voice low. "She gets that from her mother." And as he said it, his gaze lingered not on the paper, but on the woman who had mistaken him for someone ordinary and, somehow, reminded him how good that felt. Outside, the first autumn leaves drifted down onto the playground. The story that had started with a $5 mistake was only just beginning. The next few days passed quietly, but something had shifted. Lucy found herself thinking about Adam and his daughter more than she wanted to admit. The note he left, simple and handwritten, rested folded in her purse, like a secret she was not ready to share. Every time she saw the neat blue ink that said, "Thank you for the $5 lesson," she felt a strange warmth in her chest. At the daycare, the children were preparing for the fall festival. Lucy stayed late most evenings, hanging paper lanterns and cutting colorful leaves for decorations. One evening, as she was stacking chairs, a familiar voice called from the doorway. "Need an extra pair of hands?" She turned, startled, and saw Adam standing there with Ava, who clutched a basket full of apples. Lucy blinked. "You two are out late," Adam smiled. "Ava wanted to drop off these apples for your festival. We picked them ourselves." The little girl nodded proudly. "Daddy said the best apples are the ones you share." Lucy knelt to Ava's height, her heart softening. "That is very sweet of you, Ava." "Thank you." She took one of the apples, still shiny from being polished. "These will make a beautiful pie for the children." Adam stepped further into the room. His presence, calm and steady, filled the small space. "You are doing a lot of work here by yourself," he said quietly. Lucy shrugged. "It is a small daycare. We make do." He looked around at the colorful paper chains and the neatly arranged tables. "It does not look small to me. It looks like you built a world for them." For a moment, their eyes met, and the air seemed to still. Then Ava tugged at her father's sleeve. "Can I draw while you talk?" Lucy smiled. "Of course, sweetheart. You can sit at that table." As Ava began sketching with a purple crayon, Adam leaned against the doorframe. "She talks about you a lot," he said. "She said you make her feel safe." Lucy hesitated, unsure how to respond. "She is a wonderful child," she said softly. "You must be very proud." "I am," he admitted. "She lost her mother when she was 4. Since then, I have been trying to be both father and mother. Some days, I think I do all right. Most days, I think I fail completely." Lucy's expression softened. "You are doing better than you think. She is kind, curious, and full of love. That does not happen by accident." He smiled faintly. "You sound like you know something about raising children." "I have 50 of them, 5 days a week," she said with a laugh. "It teaches you patience and hope." They talked for a long while about work, about the noise of the city, about the strange comfort of late-night diners. Each story they shared seemed to build an invisible bridge between them. By the time the clock struck 8, the last rays of sunlight had faded, leaving the room lit only by the soft glow of paper lanterns. Ava approached, holding up her drawing. "Look, Daddy, it is you, me, and Miss Lucy at the fair." The picture showed 3 stick figures standing under a banner that read Fall Festival. Adam looked at it for a moment, something tender crossing his face. "It is beautiful," he said. "You even got my tie right." Lucy smiled. "You are very talented, Ava." The girl grinned, then yawned. "Can we go now, Daddy? I am sleepy." Adam nodded and turned to Lucy. "Would you like to come to the festival with us on Saturday? Ava would love it if you joined us." Lucy hesitated. "It is really for families. I just organize things." "Exactly," he said. "You deserve to enjoy it too." When she did not answer right away, Ava clasped her hands. "Please, Miss Lucy?" "Daddy never stays for the games unless someone makes him." Lucy laughed softly. "All right, I will be there." Ava cheered, and Adam gave a small, grateful smile. On Saturday morning, the festival buzzed with laughter and music. Children ran between booths with painted faces and sticky fingers from cotton candy. Lucy wore a simple blue dress, her hair tied back with a ribbon. When she spotted Adam and Ava arriving, something in her chest lifted unexpectedly. Adam looked different in casual clothes, less like a CEO, more like a man who finally remembered how to breathe. Ava ran ahead, waving. "Miss Lucy, look! Daddy won me this bear!" She held up a small, stuffed animal, beaming. Lucy knelt to admire it. "He must be very good at games." "He is," Ava said proudly. "But he never plays unless I make him." Adam chuckled. "She is persistent." They spent the afternoon together watching the children's parade, tasting caramel apples, helping the little ones fly paper kites. For a while, Everything felt light, almost normal. As the sun began to set, Lucy and Adam found themselves alone at the edge of the playground, watching Ava chase Bubbles with the other children. The light turned golden, catching in Lucy's hair. "She looks happy," Lucy said softly. "She does," Adam agreed. "You have that effect on people." She turned to him. "I just do my job." He shook his head slowly. "No, you do more than that. You see people the way they really are." Her heart thudded in her chest. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I think I have forgotten how to see that way," he said quietly. "Until you reminded me." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The sound of children's laughter floated on the cool evening air. Then Ava came running, breathless and smiling. "Miss Lucy, Daddy said we can take you for hot chocolate." Lucy laughed, surprised. "He did?" Adam shrugged with a faint smile. "I did." And just like that, the three of them walked toward the little cafe across the street, the golden light fading behind them. What began as a $5 mistake was slowly becoming something neither of them had planned a beginning that felt dangerously real. The cafe smelled of cinnamon and roasted coffee beans, a soft warmth against the chill of early evening. The three of them, Adam, Lucy, and little Ava, sat near the window, where the light from the street lamps cast a golden glow over their table. Steam curled up from 3 mugs of hot chocolate, each topped with whipped cream. Ava giggled as she tried to scoop the foam with her spoon and ended up with a white mustache across her lip. Lucy laughed, handing her a napkin. "You look like Santa." Ava grinned proudly. "Then I must be very important." Adam smiled quietly, watching the two of them. It had been a long time since he had seen his daughter laugh so freely. For once, the constant pressure that came with his position, the endless meetings, the headlines, the expectations, seemed far away. After they dropped Ava home that night, Adam lingered by the car. "Thank you," he said softly. "For what?" Lucy asked. "For reminding me what happiness sounds like." Her eyes met his, and something unspoken passed between them, gentle, hesitant, but unmistakably real. Over the next few weeks, they saw more of each other. Adam would stop by the daycare to pick Ava up, always a few minutes early, just to talk to Lucy. Sometimes he helped carry boxes of art supplies or joined the children for story time. Lucy noticed how the parents would whisper when they saw him. A man like Adam Carter did not usually spend afternoons painting with toddlers. One crisp Friday morning, the whispering turned into something louder. As Lucy walked into the daycare, her colleague handed her a newspaper. "You might want to see this," she said nervously. The headline read, "CEO, Adam Carter, faces custody rumors company, stock waivers." Lucy frowned as she read the article. It mentioned the late Mrs. Carter, the foundation Adam had built in her memory, and the recent media attention around his daughter. The last paragraph speculated that Adam's public image was too solitary for a family brand. When she looked up, Adam was standing at the doorway, holding a small bouquet of daisies. "Bad timing?" he asked gently. She folded the paper, trying to smile. "You are in the news again." He nodded. "I know. It seems I am always a headline for the wrong reasons." "What are they saying this time?" "That I cannot handle family life," he said quietly. "That my daughter needs a more stable image. Investors are nervous." Lucy felt a pang of sympathy. "That is ridiculous. You are a wonderful father." "Public opinion does not care about truth," he replied. "They only see what they are told." He hesitated before continuing. "The board is pressuring me to present a family-friendly appearance. Someone suggested I remarry. Fast." Lucy blinked, unsure if she had heard him right. "Remarry?" "Yes," he said, his expression unreadable. "A public marriage. A statement that my home is whole, that my daughter has a family." She felt her pulse quicken. "And what do you think about that?" He looked at her then, his eyes steady and calm. "I think of one person who makes my daughter smile and who does not care about my money." The room felt suddenly smaller. "Adam," she whispered, "you cannot be serious." "I am," he said. "I know how it sounds. I am not asking for love, or even forever. I am asking for your help to protect my daughter, my company, and maybe give us all a little peace." Lucy shook her head in disbelief. "You want me to pretend to be your wife?" "For a short time," he said. "It would be a legal arrangement, fully transparent. You would have financial security for your daycare, Ava would have stability. And he paused. I would finally be able to stop pretending to be fine. She stepped back, overwhelmed. This is insane. People do not just sign up for fake marriages. He held her gaze. You are right, people do not. But maybe you and I are not most people. For a long moment, the only sound was the hum of the heater. Lucy's mind raced through every reason to say no. It was too fast, too strange, too unreal. And yet, behind those thoughts was the memory of Ava's laughter, the warmth of this man who had never once made her feel small. I need time, she said finally. Of course, he replied. I will not pressure you. He left the bouquet of daisies on her desk and walked away. That night, Lucy sat in her small apartment, staring at the flowers. Her rent was overdue. The daycare needed repairs. Her mother's medical bills were growing again. The thought of a contract marriage sounded wrong, but so did letting her students lose their school. When she closed her eyes, she saw Ava's drawing the three of them at the fall festival, smiling under a banner of painted leaves. She felt something tug deep inside her chest. The next morning, she found herself standing in front of the tall glass doors of Carter Holdings. The building shimmered in the early light, polished and intimidating. She almost turned back twice before walking inside. The receptionist looked up. Good morning, Miss Monroe. Mr. Carter is expecting you. Her heart pounded as she entered his office. Adam rose from behind his desk, calm and composed, as if he had known she would come. You took a big step today, he said. I am not agreeing yet, she replied firmly. I just came to hear the full terms. He nodded, sliding a folder across the desk. Everything is in writing, no secrets. Lucy opened it. The words, contract of matrimonial partnership, stared back at her. Her hands trembled slightly as she read the first line. Adam's voice was quiet but certain. If you choose to sign, it will not be about appearances anymore. It will be about giving my daughter a home, and maybe giving both of us a chance to start again. Outside, the city buzzed on, unaware that inside this office, a choice was being made that would change 3 lives forever. Lucy stared at the folder on the desk, her fingers tracing the crisp edge of the paper. The words, contract of matrimonial partnership, felt unreal. Across from her, Adam sat still, his expression calm but not cold. There was something vulnerable in his eyes, the quiet sincerity of a man who was used to being misunderstood. May I read it alone? She asked softly. Of course, he said, standing. Take all the time you need. I will be next door. When he left, the silence in the office deepened. Lucy unfolded the pages one by one. Everything was written clearly, in precise legal language. It outlined the terms of their arrangement. A public marriage for 1 year, complete discretion about its nature, mutual support, no personal obligations beyond agreed appearances. At the end of the year, the contract would dissolve peacefully. Her name was already typed beside his. Lucy Monroe, Party B. She took a deep breath. On paper, it seemed clean and logical. In her heart, it felt anything but. Images flashed through her mind. Ava's laughter, the daycare's crumbling paint, the unopened hospital bill on her kitchen table. She thought of Adam's quiet words. I would finally be able to stop pretending to be fine. When he returned a few minutes later, Lucy was still holding the last page. You really thought of everything, she said. I had to, he replied. People like me do not get to make mistakes twice. Oh wait. She hesitated, then looked him in the eye. If I say yes, how do I know I will not regret it? You will, he said honestly. So will I. But maybe we will regret it less than doing nothing. It was such a simple truth that she almost laughed. Instead, she whispered, You are not making this easy. He smiled faintly. I do not believe easy things are worth doing. The next sound in the room was the soft scratch of her pen against paper. When she finished signing, Adam let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For trusting me. He extended his hand. She hesitated only a second before shaking it. His hand was warm and steady, grounding her in a way she did not expect. The following week was a blur. A private ceremony was arranged, quiet and efficient. There were no guests, no flowers, no music, only a lawyer, 2 witnesses, and a brief exchange of vows that neither of them truly understood. When the officiant declared them husband and wife, Lucy looked down at the simple gold band on her finger. It felt heavy, not because of its weight but because of what it symbolized. After the ceremony, Adam turned to her with polite composure. "We should move you into the house soon," he said. "For Ava's sake." Lucy nodded. "Of course." Oh. That evening, she packed her few belongings, a small suitcase of clothes, a box of children's books she planned to give Ava, and the faded photograph of her mother. She stood in her modest apartment for a long moment before turning off the light and closing the door behind her. The Carter residence was nothing like she had imagined. It was a sprawling estate on the edge of the city, built of stone and glass, surrounded by quiet gardens. Yet despite its beauty, the house felt strangely empty. The front doors opened to a grand foyer with marble floors and a staircase that curved like a ribbon. A housekeeper, named Mrs. Hill, greeted her politely, though with visible curiosity. "Welcome, Mrs. Carter," she said with a small bow. Lucy blinked. The title felt foreign on her tongue. "Please, just Lucy," she replied. Mrs. Hill smiled. "As you wish, ma'am." Adam met her at the bottom of the stairs. "Ava is excited to see you," he said. "She has been asking if you are staying for good." "Oh." Lucy managed to smile. "I suppose I am." He led her upstairs to a guest room, spacious, elegant, but impersonal. The bed was neatly made, the curtains drawn open to reveal a garden below. "This will be your room," he said. "Ours will be next door. We can share meals together when it feels right." "Feels right," she repeated half to herself. That evening, dinner was served in a long dining room that could have seated 20 people. Instead, there were 3. Adam at the head, Lucy on one side, and Ava between them. The meal was quiet at first, the sound of silverware faint against porcelain plates. Ava broke the silence with a question. "Does this mean Miss Lucy is my mom now?" Lucy froze, unsure what to say. Adam's voice was calm but gentle. "It means Miss Lucy is part of our family now. Families can look different, but what matters is that we care for each other." The little girl smiled and reached for Lucy's hand. "Then I am glad." Lucy's eyes softened. "So am I, sweetheart." After dinner, she helped Ava get ready for bed, reading her a story about stars and promises. The child fell asleep halfway through, her small hand still gripping Lucy's. Standing there in the dim light, Lucy felt something shift again. When she turned to leave, Adam was standing quietly at the doorway. He spoke in a low voice. "You do not have to do more than you are comfortable with. Just be yourself. That is enough." She nodded. "Good night, Adam." "Good night, Lucy." As she closed her bedroom door, she leaned against it, her heart unsteady. She had entered this marriage for practical reasons, to save a daycare, to help a man protect his image. But somewhere between the quiet dinner and the small hand in hers, she began to realize that pretending might be harder than she thought. Outside, the city lights shimmered in the distance. And in the silence of that vast house, Lucy Monroe Carter understood that a contract could never define what was already beginning to feel dangerously real. The first week in the Carter house felt like living inside a painting, beautiful, still, and strangely distant. Every morning, sunlight spilled through tall windows and painted soft gold patterns on the marble floors. Yet even in all that brightness, Lucy could not shake the quiet tension that seemed to hum beneath the surface of the mansion. She tried to fill the silence with small acts of life. She arranged fresh flowers in the foyer, replaced the heavy curtains in Ava's room with lighter ones that let in the morning sun, and baked muffins in the massive kitchen that always smelled too clean to be lived in. The housekeepers watched her with polite curiosity, uncertain how to treat this new Mrs. Carter, who smiled too easily and asked if they had eaten lunch. The only person who did not seem uncertain was Ava. Every afternoon, the little girl would run into Lucy's arms the moment she came home from school. "Did you wait for me?" she would ask. And Lucy always answered, "Of course I did." But Adam was different. He kept his distance, busy with work, polite but careful. At dinner, he listened more than he spoke. Sometimes, Lucy caught him watching her when he thought she was not looking, his expression unreadable, caught somewhere between gratitude and guilt. One evening, Lucy found herself in the library, wandering among rows of books that smelled faintly of cedar and thyme. She reached for a thick volume of poetry when she heard footsteps behind her. "I never thought you would be the kind of person who reads poetry," Adam said quietly. She turned, startled, then smiled. You say that as if it is a flaw. Not a flaw, he said. A surprise. He leaned against a nearby shelf, arms crossed loosely. The light from the fireplace flickered across his face, softening his usual composure. You seem comfortable here, he said after a pause. Lucy hesitated. Comfortable is not the same as belonging. His eyes lingered on her for a moment. Do you feel like you do not belong? In this house? Yes. Most of the time. I feel like a visitor who is staying too long. Oh, he looked at her then, really looked at her. You have changed the house more in 1 week than I have in 6 years. You belong more than you think. The words caught her off guard. 6 years, she repeated softly. Since your wife passed? He nodded. I tried to fill the emptiness with work. It did not work. Lucy closed the book gently. You cannot fill absence with things. Only with people. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then the sound of small footsteps echoed down the hall. Ava peeked around the doorframe, holding her stuffed bear. Daddy, Miss Lucy, I cannot sleep. Adam smiled faintly. Another nightmare? She nodded. The thunder is too loud. Lucy knelt and held out her hand. Come here, sweetheart. Let us count the raindrops together. That always helps. Ava climbed into her arms, and the three of them stood near the window, watching the rain streak across the glass. Lucy began to whisper a little rhyme about brave raindrops racing to the ground, and Ava giggled softly, the fear fading from her eyes. When the storm quieted, the little girl yawned. Can Miss Lucy tuck me in tonight? Adam hesitated, then nodded. Of course. Lucy carried Ava back to her room, tucked the blanket around her, and brushed a strand of hair from her forehead. There, safe and sound. Thank you, Ava murmured sleepily. You smell like cinnamon. Lucy smiled. That is a good thing, I hope. When she returned to the hallway, Adam was waiting by the door. His voice was low. You have a gift with her. It is not a gift, Lucy said softly. It is just listening. Children always tell you what they need if you are quiet enough to hear it. He nodded slowly, as if memorizing her words. I forgot how to listen. Then start now, she said gently. In the days that followed, small changes began to ripple through the house. The sound of laughter returned to the hallways. Ava's drawings began to appear on the refrigerator, each one signed with 3 names: Ava, Daddy, and Miss Lucy. The staff seemed less tense. Even Adam, though still reserved, began to smile, more often small, unguarded smiles that softened the sharp lines of his face. But the outside world was not as forgiving. A photographer had spotted them leaving Ava's school together, and by the next morning, a headline appeared online. Mystery woman at Carter Mansion. Has the CEO remarried? Lucy saw it while making breakfast. Her stomach tightened as she read the words. The photo showed her holding Ava's hand while Adam walked beside them, unaware of the camera. When Adam entered the kitchen, she held up the tablet silently. He sighed. I am sorry. I should have warned you. They have been following me for months. So this is what it will be like? She asked quietly. Every step watched? Every smile questioned? For a while, yes, he admitted. But it will calm down. They always move on to the next story. She wanted to believe him, but doubt lingered. What about Ava? She should not have to live in a spotlight. She will not, he said firmly. I will make sure of it. Lucy studied him for a moment. His certainty was steady, but behind it she could see the weight he carried. You always try to protect everyone, she said softly. But who protects you? He gave a small, tired smile. Maybe I do not need protecting. Yes, you do, she said. Everyone does. That night, as she lay awake in her room, Lucy listened to the rain tapping gently against the windows. She thought about the way Adam had looked when he talked about his late wife, the tenderness in his voice when he spoke to his daughter, and the loneliness that still lingered behind his calm exterior. The contract had seemed like a transaction on paper, something practical and clean. But here, inside these walls, it was becoming something much more complicated, a home built on rules that were already starting to bend. And somewhere in that quiet, between the sound of rain and the slow rhythm of her heartbeat, Lucy began to wonder if what she was pretending to feel had already become something real. Morning sunlight crept through the curtains, touching the corners of the Carter mansion with soft gold. Lucy woke early, the quiet of the house wrapping around her like a whisper. It had been almost 3 weeks since she had moved in. Every day felt like walking a thin line between truth and performance, between being herself and being Mrs. Carter. She made breakfast before the staff arrived, enjoying the small ritual of normalcy. She brewed coffee, toasted bread, and placed a bowl of fruit in the center of the table. The smell filled the kitchen with warmth, something human in a place that often felt too perfect. Ava patted in wearing her pink slippers and sleepy smile. "You are up early again," Lucy said softly. The little girl nodded. "Daddy said we have to go to the office today." Lucy blinked. "The office?" "His work," Ava said proudly. "He said you should come too." Before Lucy could ask more, Adam appeared in the doorway. He looked every bit the man the newspapers described: sharp suit, crisp tie, and the calm control of someone who had spent a lifetime managing chaos. But when his eyes met Lucy's, something gentle flickered there. "Good morning," he said. "I hope you do not mind joining us at headquarters today. The foundation has a family event, and the board expects us all to attend." Lucy hesitated. "Will they believe us?" "They already do," he said quietly. "Now we simply continue the story we started." Ava giggled. "It is like playtime for grown-ups." Lucy smiled faintly. "Yes, something like that." Later that morning they arrived at Carter Holdings. The glass towers gleamed under the sun, reflecting the city skyline. Inside, everything smelled faintly of polished wood and ambition. Employees greeted Adam with formal respect, their eyes flicking curiously to Lucy. Some smiled, others whispered behind their hands. Ava held Lucy's hand tightly, her small fingers warm and trusting. Together they entered the large conference room where the event was being held. Banners hung on the walls with the words, "Carter Foundation Family Day." Tables were filled with families of employees, children coloring while adults chatted over coffee. When the Carters walked in, conversations paused for a brief moment before the polite applause began. "Mr. Carter, Mrs. Carter, welcome," said a tall man in a tailored gray suit, Robert Hale, the company's chief financial officer. His smile was professional but cool. "We were just about to begin." Lucy returned the greeting with a polite nod. "It is lovely to meet everyone. May." Robert's eyes flicked briefly to the ring on her finger before he smiled again. "You have certainly been full of surprises lately, Adam." "Life is full of them," Adam replied smoothly. The event went on as planned. Lucy helped organize the children's games, laughing as Ava won a prize for drawing a balloon. The employees warmed to her quickly, charmed by her kindness and lack of pretense. For a while, Adam watched from a distance, his expression unreadable. When she caught his gaze, he looked away, but not before she saw the faint trace of a smile. After lunch, Robert approached Adam near the refreshments table. "You have done well," he said in a low tone. "The press will love this image." "But are you sure she can handle it? The scrutiny, the expectations?" Adam's voice remained calm. "Lucy can handle more than most people think." Robert's smile tightened. "Just remember, appearances are everything. A misstep could cost you more than stock value." "Oh." Adam's jaw tensed slightly. "Thank you for your concern, Robert. I will manage my own family." Lucy noticed the exchange from across the room. She did not hear the words, but she saw the shift in Adam's posture, how his shoulders stiffened, how the easy calm faded. When he turned back to her, she met him halfway. "Everything all right?" she asked quietly. "Office politics," he said. "They never end. I have seen preschoolers fight over crayons with more grace," she teased softly. His laugh came out unexpected, low and real. "You might be right about that." As the afternoon went on, the mood lightened. A photographer from a business magazine appeared to take pictures of the Carter family. Lucy stood beside Adam, her hand resting lightly on Ava's shoulder. When the flash went off, she saw Adam glance at her, not as part of a staged photo, but as if trying to memorize the moment. After the event ended, they returned home. Ava fell asleep in the back seat of the car, her head resting on Lucy's lap. The rhythm of the road and the soft hum of the engine made the silence between Lucy and Adam feel almost peaceful. "Thank you," Adam said suddenly. "For today." She looked at him. "For smiling when you wanted to run away?" He chuckled softly. "For making everything look real. You have a way of turning performance into truth." Her heart skipped slightly. "That was never part of the contract." "Oh, no," he said, his eyes on the road. It was not. When they reached the mansion, Adam carried Ava to her room, while Lucy followed quietly. He tucked the child in with surprising tenderness, brushing a stray curl from her forehead. Lucy stood in the doorway, watching him, the dim light outlining the gentleness that few people ever saw. Later, as they walked back to the hallway, he stopped beside her door. "I know this situation is strange," he said quietly. "If you ever feel uncomfortable, tell me. You are not trapped here." She met his eyes. "I do not feel trapped, just unsure of where the act ends." He nodded slowly. "Maybe neither of us knows." That night, Lucy could not sleep. She sat by her window, watching the moonlight spill across the garden. In the distance, she saw Adam in his study, light still burning, a lone figure behind the glass. For a moment, their eyes met through the reflection. Neither of them moved. The contract had begun as protection, a careful performance for the world to see. But as the line between duty and emotion blurred, Lucy realized something dangerous pretending to be his wife had begun to feel less like a lie and more like the truth she did not know she wanted. Down the hall, Adam closed his laptop and looked toward her window one last time before turning off the light, unaware that the story they were writing together was slowly rewriting both of their hearts. The morning after the foundation event, the Carter mansion felt unusually alive. Sunlight spilled through the tall windows, and laughter echoed faintly from Ava's room. For the first time since Lucy had arrived, the air no longer felt heavy with formality. There was warmth now, the kind that came from small, real moments rather than grand gestures. Lucy was in the kitchen, wearing a soft blue sweater, flipping pancakes on the stove. The scent of vanilla and butter filled the room. Ava sat at the counter, swinging her legs and watching eagerly. "Can I flip one, Miss Lucy?" she asked. Lucy smiled. "Only if your father promises to catch it if it flies away." Ava's laughter rang bright as Adam walked in, rolling up the sleeves of his dress shirt. "I think I can handle a pancake emergency," he said. He leaned against the counter, his expression calm but amused. "You have no idea what you have done to this house," he said softly. Lucy turned from the stove. "I hope that is a good thing." "It is," he said. "A very good thing." Breakfast that morning felt easy, like something families did without thinking. Ava talked about school, about her class project on community helpers, and asked if she could draw her family for it. "It is due next week," she said, looking between them. "Can I put you and Daddy in it?" Lucy hesitated for a heartbeat before answering. "Of course you can." Adam's voice was gentle. "We would be honored." After breakfast, Lucy helped Ava pack her things for school. When they stepped outside, Adam was already waiting by the car. The driver opened the door, but Ava turned to Lucy instead. "Can you come today? It is Parent Day. The teacher said we can bring someone special." Lucy blinked, glancing at Adam. "I did not know about that." Adam looked at his daughter and then at Lucy. "Would you like to come?" She hesitated, uncertain if it was appropriate, but Ava's hopeful eyes left her no choice. "I would love to," she said finally. At the school, the halls buzzed with excitement. Children displayed drawings, crafts, and handmade projects, while parents mingled. Lucy stayed near Ava's table, helping arrange colored paper and glue sticks. Adam stood nearby, his tall frame oddly out of place among the chaos, but his smile genuine. The teacher greeted them warmly. "Mr. Carter, Mrs. Carter, we are so happy you could join us. Ava is one of our brightest students." Lucy felt a flicker of pride that surprised her. She glanced at Adam, who was already kneeling beside Ava, helping her finish a collage of "My Family." There were 3 figures drawn in crayon: Ava, Daddy, and Miss Lucy. Above it, in uneven letters, Ava had written, "My family loves pancakes and rainy days." When the teacher took a photo of them together, Adam looked over at Lucy. For the first time, his smile did not seem like something he had to remember to wear. It was real, unguarded, and warm. After the school event, they stopped for ice cream before heading home. Ava chattered the entire time, telling them stories about her friends and her drawings. But when she finished her ice cream, her eyes began to droop, and she fell asleep against Lucy's shoulder. In the car, the city passed by in slow, golden streaks of afternoon light. Lucy spoke quietly. "She is remarkable, Adam. You should be proud." I am, he said, glancing at her. And I am grateful. She has not laughed this much in years. Lucy smiled faintly. Sometimes, laughter is all it takes to heal. He nodded, then paused. You have a way of saying things that sound simple but mean more than they should. She turned toward the window, trying to steady the warmth rising in her chest. I just say what I see. I. When they reached home, Adam carried Ava upstairs while Lucy tidied the living room. As she gathered crayons from the coffee table, her eyes fell on a framed photograph of Adam and his late wife. The woman in the picture was elegant, poised, and beautiful in a quiet way. Lucy felt an ache she could not name, a strange mixture of respect and sadness. She placed the photo back carefully just as Adam came downstairs. His expression softened when he saw where she had been looking. Her name was Clara, he said quietly. She loved this house. She loved every corner of it. Lucy's voice was gentle. She must have been extraordinary. She was, he said, his tone distant but kind. Losing her was like losing the sound of music. Everything went quiet after that. Lucy looked at him for a long moment before saying softly, "And now?" He exhaled slowly. "Now, it does not feel so quiet anymore." Their eyes met, the silence between them stretching, full of something neither dared name. Then Adam cleared his throat. "There is a company gala next week. The board expects us both there." "Of course," Lucy said, keeping her tone steady. "It is formal," he added. "I will have a dress arranged for you." She smiled. "You really like arranging things, do you not?" He chuckled softly. "Control is my bad habit." "Maybe," she said lightly. "You should let go of it once in a while." That evening, Lucy found herself sitting by the window in her room, watching the garden lights blink like stars. She thought of Ava's drawing, the family of 3 holding hands, and the note above it that read, "We love pancakes and rainy days." It was innocent, but in that small piece of paper lay a truth she could no longer deny. She was no longer just pretending. Across the hall, Adam stood in his study, looking at the same drawing. He traced the crayon lines with his thumb, the corners of his mouth lifting slightly. The contract that had begun as a shield was slowly becoming a mirror, reflecting a version of life he had once believed lost. Neither of them knew it yet, but that quiet, ordinary day, the pancakes, the drawing, the laughter, was the moment their false marriage began to turn into something real. The week of the company gala arrived faster than Lucy expected. The mansion buzzed with quiet preparation, fresh flowers in the hallways, polished floors, and staff moving briskly to make sure everything was perfect. Lucy felt out of place amid the elegance. She had lived a simple life before all this, and the idea of stepping into a ballroom filled with the city's most powerful people made her heart race. That afternoon, a designer arrived with several dresses in garment bags. Lucy stood awkwardly as assistants unzipped each one, revealing cascades of silk and satin. She reached out to touch a pale silver gown that shimmered like moonlight. "They are all beautiful," she said softly, "but I do not know if I belong in any of them." Adam, standing nearby, watched her carefully. "You belong wherever you decide to be," he said. When she looked at him, her nervous smile faltered. "You really think that?" "I do," he said. "And I think tonight you should believe it too." Oh. Hours later, the ballroom of the Grand Marlowe Hotel glowed beneath crystal chandeliers. Guests in evening gowns and tuxedos filled the room, laughter blending with the low hum of a string quartet. Photographers hovered near the entrance, waiting for the appearance of the city's most talked-about couple. When Adam and Lucy entered, the flash of cameras brightened the room like a storm of light. For a brief moment, even the music seemed to pause. Adam looked every bit the confident CEO in his black suit, but his gaze was fixed on Lucy. She walked beside him in the silver gown, her hair swept into soft curls, her poise graceful but unpretentious. The whispers began immediately: admiration, curiosity, disbelief. "Mr. Carter," one reporter called, "is this your first public appearance as a married couple?" Adam smiled politely. "Yes, it is. We are very happy to be here tonight." "Oh." Lucy smiled as the cameras clicked, her hand resting lightly on his arm. Inside, her heart pounded, but she kept her composure. She could feel the weight of every eye in the room, yet when Adam looked down at her, the noise seemed to fade. Throughout the evening, they moved together, effortlessly dancing, greeting guests, laughing at quiet jokes that only they understood. To anyone watching, they looked like a couple completely in love. But for Lucy, something about the night felt different. The act no longer felt like an act. Every glance, every touch, lingered a little too long, felt a little too real. During a slow waltz, Adam leaned closer and whispered, "You are doing wonderfully." Lucy looked up, her voice soft. "So are you," he smiled. "That is because of you." The music swelled around them as they moved in rhythm, his hand resting gently on her back. When the song ended, applause filled the room, but Lucy could barely hear it. Her heart was beating too fast. Later that night, they stepped out onto the terrace to escape the noise. The city stretched before them in a sea of glittering lights. A soft breeze lifted the edge of her dress. For a long moment, neither spoke. "You hate these events, do you not?" Lucy asked quietly. Adam exhaled a small laugh. "I used to. Tonight feels different." "Because of the cameras?" she teased gently. He shook his head. "Because of the company." Her cheeks warmed. "You say that like you mean it." "Oh, I do," he said simply. "You make everything easier, more real." She looked down at the city below, her fingers brushing the railing. "It is strange, pretending to be something we are not. And yet, he prompted, "it feels like I am not pretending anymore." He turned to face her fully. "Neither am I." The honesty in his voice caught her off guard. The world around them seemed to fall away, leaving only the soft hum of music drifting through the open doors. He stepped closer, not touching her, but close enough that she could feel the warmth of his presence. "Lucy," he said quietly, "when I asked you to do this, I thought it would make my life easier. But all it has done is make me remember what living actually feels like." Her breath caught. "Adam," before she could finish, the sound of someone clearing their throat broke the moment. They turned to see Robert Hale, the company's chief financial officer, standing by the door with a polite but strained smile. "Excuse me for interrupting," he said smoothly. "The press would love a few words from the happy couple." Adam's expression shifted back into formality. "Of course. We will be right in." When Robert left, Lucy spoke quietly. "He does not like me." Adam's voice was steady. "Robert does not like anyone who reminds him he is not in control." "Ugh." She nodded, understanding more than she wanted to. "He is dangerous, is he not?" "In his own way," Adam said. "But he knows where the line is." They went back inside and finished the night with grace, smiling for cameras, thanking guests, and playing their parts until the last song faded. Back at the mansion, Lucy slipped off her shoes and sat by the window, still hearing the faint echo of music in her mind. The night had been perfect in every visible way, but her thoughts were far from calm. She had walked into this arrangement as a formality, a contract built on convenience and protection. But tonight had changed something between them. In another room, Adam loosened his tie, staring at his reflection. For years, he had worn control like armor. But tonight, he had let it slip. For the first time since Clara's death, he had felt something he thought was gone hope. He looked out the window toward Lucy's room, where the faint glow of her lamp still shone. And though neither spoke another word that night, they both knew that the line between duty and desire had already been crossed, quietly and irrevocably. The following morning, the mansion felt unusually quiet. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, catching the reflection of the grand piano in the living room. The night of the gala still lingered in the air, the scent of perfume on Lucy's dress, the faint echo of music in her mind, and the memory of Adam's voice when he had said he was no longer pretending. Lucy stood by the kitchen window, her hands wrapped around a mug of coffee. She could still see his face from the terrace, the sincerity in his eyes, the calm weight in his words. What unsettled her most was that she had believed him. She had felt it too, something real, something she could not explain. Ava burst into the kitchen with her usual bright energy, carrying a small folder decorated with stickers. "Miss Lucy, I got a letter from school." Lucy crouched down, smiling. "A letter? That sounds exciting." "It is for Parents' Day next month," Ava said proudly. "The teacher wants both of you to come this time." Lucy hesitated. "Both of us?" Ava nodded, her eyes shining. "You and Daddy, because now we are a family." Before Lucy could answer, Adam entered the room. He was dressed more casually than usual, his tie undone, his sleeves rolled up. What is all the excitement? Ava wants us to go to Parents' Day, Lucy explained. Adam smiled at his daughter. Then of course we will. Ava squealed in delight and ran off to pack her art supplies, leaving the two adults alone in the kitchen. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Lucy said quietly, "You know she believes this is real." Adam's voice softened. And maybe it is in its own way. She looked down, unsure what to say. "I do not want her to get hurt." "Neither do I," he said. "That is why I asked you here, because you are someone who would never hurt her." Lucy's heart tightened at his words, but before she could respond, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen, his expression hardening slightly. "Excuse me, I need to take this." She watched as he stepped outside to the patio, his voice lowering as he spoke. Though she could not hear the words, she recognized the tone controlled, clipped, professional. When he returned, his calm had returned too, but there was a trace of unease behind his eyes. "Everything all right?" she asked. "Just business," he said. "It can wait." But Lucy knew better. She had begun to recognize the small tells, the way his jaw tightened when something bothered him, the way his hand lingered on his phone a moment too long. Later that afternoon, Adam invited her to join him at his office. "There is something I want you to see," he said. When they arrived, the mood inside Carter Holdings was different from the last time she had visited. Employees greeted her with warmth now, not suspicion. She noticed the difference in their smiles, less curiosity, more respect. Adam led her through the glass hallways until they reached a room filled with architectural models and framed photographs. "This is the Foundation's planning department," he explained. "We fund schools, clinics, and family programs across the city." Lucy looked around, impressed. "You built all of this?" "My father started it," he said. "I just kept it going. But lately, the board has been pushing for more profit-focused ventures. They forget why this company was created in the first place." "Oh." She studied the photographs, children in classrooms, families smiling in front of new homes, community centers with the Carter logo above the doors. "It is beautiful," she said. "You are helping people who would never even meet you." He smiled faintly. "You make it sound noble. It is mostly numbers on a screen." "No," she said firmly. "It is more than that. I see it in how Ava talks about you. She thinks you are a hero." For a moment, something softened in his expression. A hero, no, just a man trying to do right by his daughter. As they left the office, the sound of raised voices drifted from the hallway. Robert Hale, the chief financial officer, was speaking to someone on the phone, his tone sharp. "I do not care how good the photo looked. If the public finds out this marriage is a contract, it will destroy everything we built." Lucy froze mid-step. Adam's jaw clenched. "Robert," he said evenly, "perhaps next time you should close the door before speculating about things you do not understand." Robert turned, feigning surprise. "Adam, I was only saying what the media will, sooner or later." His gaze flicked to Lucy. "Not everyone believes in fairy tales." Adam's voice remained calm, but there was steel beneath it. "Careful, Robert. You are beginning to sound like someone who wants a scandal." Robert smiled thinly. "I am only protecting the company." "No." Lucy could feel the tension thick in the air. When they walked away, she glanced at Adam. "He knows, does he not?" "He suspects," Adam said quietly. "But that is enough to cause trouble." "Then why keep him?" "Because removing him would cause more." The drive home was quiet. The city outside glowed with late afternoon light. But inside the car, a weight had settled between them. When they reached the mansion, Lucy turned to him. "If this goes public, it will hurt you and Ava." "Owen." "I know," he said. "That is why we need to stay ahead of it. The gala bought us time, but people like Robert will not stop digging." Lucy took a breath. "Then we will have to make them believe it completely." Adam looked at her, his eyes steady. "Are you sure you can handle that?" She nodded. "For Ava's sake, I can handle anything." For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he reached for her hand, his touch deliberate and warm. "You already have." That night, as Lucy lay awake, she could hear the faint sound of Ava laughing in her sleep down the hall. The world outside might have been built on contracts, cameras, and expectations, but inside these walls, something genuine had taken root. Lucy realized that pretending was no longer about fooling the public. It was about protecting the fragile truth that had quietly become her own. And as she closed her eyes, she knew that whatever came next, she would stand beside Adam, not because of the contract, but because her heart had already made its choice. The days following the gala brought a strange calm. The media praised Adam and Lucy as the picture of elegance and devotion, a power couple whose quiet grace captured hearts. For once, the headlines were kind. But behind that fragile peace, something darker began to stir. Adam had returned to work full-time, determined to restore balance to the company. Lucy kept busy managing the household, helping Ava with school projects, and planning small community events through the Carter Foundation. Outwardly, everything looked perfect. Yet Lucy could not ignore the unease that lingered like a shadow, an instinct that told her something was shifting behind closed doors. One evening, while setting the dinner table, she noticed Mrs. Hill, the housekeeper, speaking in hushed tones with one of the younger staff members. Their conversation stopped abruptly when Lucy entered the room. "Is everything all right?" she asked. Mrs. Hill smiled politely. "Of course, ma'am. Just discussing tomorrow's grocery delivery." But Lucy could tell there was more. The stiffness in the woman's tone, the way her eyes flicked toward the hallway, it all hinted at something unspoken. That night, Adam came home late, looking tired but collected. He loosened his tie as he walked into the kitchen, where Lucy waited with dinner still warm. "You did not have to wait for me," he said softly. "I wanted to," she replied. "You look like you have had a long day." He gave a faint smile. "Longer than usual. The board meeting was difficult. Robert is pushing for new contracts overseas, risky ones. Do you trust him?" Adam hesitated. "I trust his ambition, not his intentions." Lucy nodded, sensing the weight in his voice. "You cannot build trust on ambition." He looked at her then, a tired warmth in his eyes. "You have a way of making simple words sound like truth." She smiled gently. "Maybe that is because I do not have to sell them." For a moment, the heaviness between them lifted. They sat together in quiet companionship, the kind that required no words. But as Adam left for his study later that night, Lucy's thoughts kept circling back to Mrs. Hill's uneasy glance, the secretive tone in the servants' whispers, and Robert Hale's name spoken too often in Adam's complaints. The next morning confirmed her fears. A tabloid headline appeared online. CEO, Adam Carter's marriage raises. Questions sources claim. A contract behind closed doors. Lucy felt her heart drop as she read the article. The story was speculative but detailed enough to be dangerous. It mentioned the sudden marriage, her background as a daycare worker, and even the exact date of their license filing. It accused the union of being a staged partnership to protect Adam's company image. Her hands trembled as she scrolled down. There were no photographs, but the words were enough to plant doubt. She did not need to guess who had leaked it. When Adam entered the breakfast room, she slid the tablet toward him without a word. His jaw tightened as he read. "Robert," he said quietly. "It has to be." "Can he prove any of it?" Lucy asked. "No," Adam said. "But proof is not what the press needs. Rumor is enough." She swallowed. "What happens now?" "We get ahead of it," he said. "I will release a statement denying it. The company's media team will handle the rest." But she could see it in his eyes. He was not as calm as he sounded. The next few days were a blur of phone calls, meetings, and headlines. Reporters began waiting outside the gates. Neighbors whispered. Even Ava came home from school one afternoon and asked, "Daddy, why are people saying mean things about Miss Lucy?" Adam knelt beside her, choosing his words carefully. "Sometimes people talk about things they do not understand, sweetheart. But the truth always finds its way back." Lucy listened from the hallway, her heart breaking a little at the sight of the man who was trying so hard to hold everything together. That evening, she found him in his study, staring at a photograph of his late wife on the wall. His shoulders were tense, his expression unreadable. "You should not have to keep fighting like this," she said softly. He turned, surprised. "I am not fighting for myself anymore." "Then who are you fighting for?" "For you, for Ava, for the life we built, even if it started as a lie." Her breath caught at the words. "Adam, I know this was supposed to be temporary," he said, his voice low. "A contract, an arrangement. But somewhere along the way, it stopped feeling like one." Before she could answer, the phone on his desk rang sharply. He picked it up, his expression darkening as he listened. What do you mean he is releasing documents? That is impossible. Lucy froze. What is happening? Adam hung up slowly. Robert leaked internal files, emails, drafts of the contract, enough to make it look real. Her heart pounded. So now everyone will know. He met her Chaza, unless we can prove otherwise. The night stretched long and heavy. Adam worked relentlessly, making calls, reaching lawyers, and instructing his communications team. Lucy stayed by his side, helping in any way she could, though exhaustion and fear gnawed at her. By midnight, Adam leaned back in his chair, his face drawn but determined. "We will survive this," he said quietly. "We always do." Lucy looked at him, her voice trembling but strong. "Then let us not survive it for the cameras. Let us survive it for the truth." For the first time in hours, he smiled faintly. "The truth," he repeated. "I can live with that." Outside, the night deepened around the mansion. The world beyond their walls was already spinning with gossip and doubt, but inside, something stronger held them steady. Not the contract, not the headlines, but the growing bond between a man who had lost faith in love and a woman who had unknowingly brought it back to him. Neither of them knew it yet, but the fight ahead would test more than their image. It would test the very thing they were both trying not to admit, that what began as pretense had quietly become love. The next morning brought gray skies and restless air, as if the city itself could sense the unease circling the Carter household. The front gate was lined with reporters holding cameras, their voices calling out through the iron bars. Every question sounded like an accusation. Lucy watched from the upstairs window as Adam's security team kept the crowd at bay. The flash of cameras reflected off the polished hood of his car as he left for a board meeting that could decide his future. Her stomach twisted with worry. The scandal that Robert Hale had started was spreading quickly, and every hour brought a new headline filled with speculation. She turned from the window and tried to focus on something ordinary. Ava was sitting cross-legged on the carpet, drawing pictures in her sketchbook. "What are you making today?" Lucy asked gently. Ava smiled. "It is our house, but with big hearts around it. Daddy said hearts make everything stronger." Lucy's throat tightened. "He is right," she said softly. "He always is." Later that afternoon, Mrs. Hill brought her a tray of tea and hesitated before speaking. "Ma'am, there have been phone calls all morning. Some of them are from parents at the daycare. They have seen the news." Lucy felt her chest tighten. "What did they say?" "They are worried about the stories," Mrs. Hill admitted. "But the ones who know you told the reporters to leave you alone." Lucy nodded slowly. "Thank you, Mrs. Hill." After the woman left, Lucy sat at the table, staring at the untouched tea. She had built her life on small acts of honesty, comforting children, helping neighbors, living simply. Now her name was being twisted into a headline about lies and manipulation. When Adam returned home that evening, exhaustion clung to him like a shadow. He removed his jacket and rubbed the bridge of his nose. "The board wants answers," he said quietly. "They are afraid this will affect investors." "And what will you tell them?" Lucy asked. "The truth," he said, "that my marriage is real where it matters, and that the company has nothing to hide." She wanted to believe it would be enough. "Do they believe you?" He looked at her for a long moment. "Some do. Others see only the numbers." Lucy stepped closer. "Then show them what they cannot calculate." He gave a small, tired smile. "You make that sound simple." "It is not simple," she said gently, "but it is human." He studied her face for a moment, then reached out to take her hand. His touch was firm but tender. "I do not know what I would do without you." Her breath caught, but she did not pull away. "You will not have to find out." Before he could respond, the sound of small footsteps broke the moment. Ava stood in the doorway, clutching her stuffed bear. "Daddy, are people still being mean about Miss Lucy?" Adam crouched to her level. "Some people say things they do not understand, sweetheart. But we know the truth." Ava nodded solemnly. "Then I am not scared." She looked at Lucy. "You are not scared either, right?" Lucy knelt beside her. "Not when you are this brave." Ava grinned, satisfied with the answer, and ran off to her room. After she left, Adam straightened and sighed. "She is stronger than most adults I know." "She gets that from you," Lucy said quietly. Over the next few days, the media frenzy intensified. Anonymous sources claimed they had seen drafts of the supposed marriage contract. Talk shows debated whether the marriage was real or fake, using their names as entertainment. Adam's legal team worked to stop the leaks. But Robert Hale's influence within the company made things difficult. One morning, a journalist managed to slip past security and approached Lucy at the gate while she was tending the garden. "Mrs. Carter," the woman called out, "is it true you were paid to marry him?" Lucy froze. "Excuse me?" The reporter pressed on. "We have documents suggesting your daycare was funded by Carter Holdings before your marriage. Was that part of the deal?" Lucy's hands trembled as she set down her gardening shears. "The daycare received help because of the foundation," she said calmly. "Because it needed help, not because of a deal." "Then what do you call it?" the reporter pushed. Lucy looked straight into the camera lens. "I call it kindness, something the world seems to be running out of." Her voice was steady, but her heart raced as she turned and walked back into the house. That evening, Adam found her in the garden again, kneeling beside the flowers she had planted weeks ago. "I saw the clip," he said quietly. "You handled it better than I could have." "I just told the truth," she said. "Sometimes that is the hardest thing to do," he replied. She stood, brushing dirt from her hands. "What will you do about Robert?" Adam's jaw tightened. "He has called for an emergency meeting tomorrow. He is trying to push me out of my own company." Lucy stared at him. "He cannot do that." "He can try," Adam said, "but I am not going down quietly." The next morning, he left before sunrise. Lucy watched him from the doorway, her heart heavy. She spent the day with Ava, reading stories and baking cookies, trying to keep the world outside from touching the child's innocence. But when the phone rang that evening, her hands shook before she even picked it up. "Lucy, it is Adam." His voice came through the line, steady but edged with fatigue. The meeting went as expected. Robert made his move. "What happened?" she asked. "I stopped him," he said. "But it is not over. He is threatening to go public with more information if I do not step down." Lucy took a deep breath. "Then maybe it is time to stop playing defense." "What do you mean?" "Tell the world the truth yourself," she said firmly, before he twisted again. There was a pause on the line, then a slow exhale. "You really think that would work?" "I think honesty always works," she said, "even if it costs something." Adam was silent for a moment. "You always see the light in everything, do you not?" "Someone has to," she said softly. That night, while the city outside glittered under the rain, Adam Carter drafted a public statement. It was not written by lawyers or edited by consultants. It was his words, simple and real. And though the world might not believe every line, Lucy knew one thing for certain. The truth was finally finding its way out of the shadows. The following morning began with quiet tension that filled every room of the Carter mansion. Adam had not slept much the night before. He sat in his study, the faint glow of his laptop screen lighting his face as he read his public statement one last time. The world would soon know the truth, not from rumors, not from anonymous sources, but from his own words. Lucy walked in carrying a cup of coffee. Her expression was calm, but her hands trembled slightly. "Is it ready?" she asked softly. He nodded. "It goes live in 15 minutes. She placed the cup beside him. "Whatever happens, I am proud of you." He looked up at her, tired but steady. "You are the reason I am doing this." At exactly 8 o'clock, the statement went public. It appeared on the company website, on major news outlets, and across social media. The headline read, "Adam Carter speaks, my marriage is real where it matters." In his message, Adam did not deny the contract. Instead, he told the full truth. He explained how the marriage began under unusual circumstances, how he had wanted to protect his daughter and his company, and how Lucy had entered the arrangement with honesty and compassion. He wrote that somewhere along the way, what began as an agreement had turned into something genuine. He ended the letter with a single line that silenced the noise of speculation. Love does not always begin with perfection. Sometimes, it begins with courage. By midday, the internet was in chaos, but not in the way anyone expected. Instead of outrage, the response was overwhelmingly human. People praised his honesty, calling it refreshing in a world built on image. Others shared their own stories of unexpected love, of second chances, of faith after loss. In the kitchen, Lucy watched the news replay the headline again and again. Her name was mentioned with respect now, not suspicion. She felt tears gather at the corners of her eyes, but quickly brushed them away as Ava came running in. "Daddy is on television," Ava said, her voice full of excitement. "He said you are his heart." Lucy knelt down, smiling through the tears she could no longer hide. "Did he say that?" Ava nodded proudly. "He said you make our house feel like home." Lucy wrapped her arms around the little girl, holding her close. For the first time in weeks, the house felt peaceful. No whispers, no reporters, no fear. Just truth. When Adam came home that evening, the storm outside had finally quieted. He found Lucy and Ava sitting by the fireplace, reading together. The warmth of the scene stopped him in his tracks. Lucy looked up and smiled. "How does it feel to tell the truth?" He exhaled slowly, his expression soft, like breathing for the first time. Ava ran into his arms, laughing. "Does this mean no one is mad anymore?" He kissed her forehead. "No one who matters." That night, after Ava went to bed, Adam and Lucy stood on the balcony, the city lights glowing in the distance. He took her hand, his voice low but certain. "No more pretending. Whatever this is, it is ours now." And for the first time, Lucy did not hesitate. "Yes," she said quietly, "it always was." In the days that followed Adam's public statement, the world began to quiet. The constant buzz of gossip faded into admiration, and the sharp headlines softened into words like redemption, courage, and truth. For the first time since the scandal began, the Carter family could breathe without fear. Lucy noticed the change almost immediately. The reporters who once waited by the gates were gone. The staff no longer whispered in the hallways. Even the air inside the mansion felt lighter, as though the walls themselves had been holding their breath. One morning, Lucy woke to the smell of pancakes and laughter drifting up from the kitchen. When she came downstairs, she found Ava standing on a stool, proudly stirring batter while Adam flipped pancakes with mock seriousness. "Breakfast is served by Chef Carter and her assistant," Adam said, handing Lucy a plate. Lucy laughed, the sound bright and free. "This is the best kind of peace," she said. Adam smiled. "It is the kind we built ourselves." After breakfast, they took Ava to the park, a small, simple thing, but one that felt like a quiet victory. No cameras followed, no strangers stared. Just a father, a mother figure, and a child walking hand in hand beneath the soft glow of early spring sunlight. Ava ran ahead to chase Bubbles, her laughter echoing through the park. Adam and Lucy sat on a nearby bench, watching her. "She is happy again," Lucy said softly. "She is," Adam agreed. "And so am I." Lucy looked at him. "You lost so much before this began. Does it feel strange to have peace again?" He thought for a moment. "Strange," he said, "but good. When Clara died, I thought love had ended for me. But maybe it was just waiting to begin again in a different form." Her eyes softened. "You talk about her with so much respect. That means something." "She will always be part of my story," he said. "But so are you now." Before Lucy could respond, Ava ran back, holding a handful of dandelions. "Make a wish," she said, offering them to both of them. Adam smiled and closed his eyes for a moment, his hand brushing Lucy's. "You first," he said. Lucy held the tiny flowers gently. "I already have everything I could wish for," she said quietly. Ava giggled. "You have to blow them, Miss Lucy." "Oh." Lucy leaned forward and blew, watching the white seeds scatter into the wind, floating like soft whispers of hope. That evening, after Ava was asleep, Adam found Lucy in the garden. The stars were out, and the flowers she had planted months ago were beginning to bloom. He stood beside her, his voice low. "You changed everything, Lucy. Not just the company or the headlines, me." She turned to him, her eyes reflecting the glow of the garden lights. "I did not change you. I just reminded you who you already were." He reached for her hand, and this time, neither of them hesitated. In that quiet moment, surrounded by stars and new beginnings, the past no longer felt heavy. For the first time in years, Adam Carter was not a man rebuilding his life. He was a man finally living it, and beside him stood the woman who had turned a contract into something real. The calm that followed their public redemption felt almost unreal. Weeks passed quietly, marked by laughter, small routines, and a kind of peace Lucy had never known before. The Carter mansion, once cold and silent, now felt alive, filled with music, Ava's drawings, and the smell of coffee and pancakes every morning. Lucy began volunteering full-time at the Carter Foundation, focusing on projects that supported single parents and early childhood education. Her warmth and sincerity quickly made her beloved by the staff. People no longer saw her as the mystery wife, but as the woman who had brought empathy into a world ruled by profit and power. Adam watched her transformation with a quiet pride that he rarely put into words. Each evening when she returned home, still wearing paint on her hands from community work, he would meet her in the kitchen, hand her a cup of tea, and ask, "Tell me what you changed today." She always smiled and said, "Just a few hearts." Oh, but one evening, as the sunset spilled gold across the kitchen, Adam looked up from his paperwork and said, "You are changing more than you realize. The board has been asking for your input on our outreach programs. They want to expand." Lucy blinked, surprised. "Me? I am not an executive." "No," he said with a small smile. "You are better than that. You are what this company needs to remember what matters." Before she could respond, Ava ran in, waving a flyer. "Daddy, Miss Lucy, my school is having a family night next week. You both have to come." Adam took the paper and read it. "A talent show?" Ava nodded eagerly. "Every family has to do something together. We could sing or dance or bake cookies." Lucy laughed. "I do not think your father sings, sweetheart." Adam raised an eyebrow. "I can try if you do." "Then it is settled," Ava cheered. "We will be the best team." "Oh." That night, as Lucy tucked Ava into bed, the little girl whispered, "Do you think people at school will stop asking if we are a real family now?" Lucy's heart ached at the question. "They will, sweetheart, because families are made by love, not by what people say." Ava smiled sleepily. "That is what Daddy says too." The next few days were filled with joyful preparation. Adam surprised Lucy by hiring a small music coach to help them rehearse a simple song for family night. The sight of the powerful CEO awkwardly holding a guitar made Lucy laugh so hard she nearly dropped her sheet music. "I am not terrible," he protested, though even he was laughing. "You are not terrible," she said between giggles. "You are just not good." "Then I will learn," he replied, his tone playful but earnest. When the night of the event arrived, the school auditorium buzzed with families. The stage was decorated with paper stars, and children ran around in excitement. Lucy stood with Adam and Ava behind the curtain, her heart racing with nerves. Ava squeezed her hand. "Do not be scared, Miss Lucy. You are the brave one." Lucy smiled, steadying herself. "Thank you, my little teacher." When their names were called, the three of them stepped onto the stage together. Adam strummed the opening chords slowly, his fingers uncertain but determined. Lucy began to sing, her voice soft at first but growing stronger as she saw Ava's beaming face beside her. The song was simple about home, second chances, and choosing kindness over fear. Halfway through, the audience began clapping along. By the final verse, even Adam was smiling openly, his deep voice joining Lucy's in harmony. When the song ended, applause filled the room, louder and warmer than either of them had expected. Backstage, Ava threw her arms around them both. "We did it! We are the best family ever." Adam laughed and lifted her into his arms. "Yes, we are," he said softly. "The very best kind." On the ride home, Ava fell asleep in the back seat, her head resting against her stuffed bear. Lucy watched her reflection in the window, the soft curve of her smile, the peacefulness in her small face, and felt something deep within her settle into place. "You know," Adam said quietly, breaking the silence, "I used to think family was something that could be lost forever. But tonight, I realized it is something you can build again, if you have the courage to try." "Oh," Lucy turned to him. "You did not build it alone." He smiled. "No, I did not. You built it with me." They drove the rest of the way in comfortable silence. When they reached the mansion, Adam carried Ava upstairs, tucking her into bed with practiced gentleness. Lucy watched from the doorway, her heart swelling at the sight. As they walked back to the hall, Adam stopped beside her. The light from the hallway lamp cast a soft glow across his face. "Lucy," he said quietly, "when this all began, I thought I was saving my company, but what I really saved was myself." Her voice trembled slightly. "And what about me?" He met her gaze. "You saved me, Lucy. You and Ava both." For a long moment, they stood there, words unspoken but understood. The contract that had once defined them had long since burned away, replaced by something real, something earned. That night, as the house fell silent, The only sound was the steady rhythm of new beginnings, proof that sometimes the most unexpected stories become the truest ones of all. The weeks after family night carried a gentle rhythm that felt almost magical. For the first time since she could remember, Lucy woke each morning without a sense of uncertainty. She had found her place, not as a guest in someone else's life, but as a part of a family that had grown from truth, care, and quiet courage. The world outside had finally moved on from their story. Reporters stopped calling. Headlines stopped spinning. And Carter Holdings was thriving again. But inside the Carter mansion, something deeper was happening, something unspoken, yet undeniable. One Sunday morning, Lucy found Adam in the garden, trimming the rose bushes that had begun to bloom. The sight made her smile. He was no longer the tense, guarded man she had met months ago. There was lightness in his movements now, a peace in the way he stood. "You are getting good at that," she said, stepping onto the stone path. He looked up, smiling. "I had a good teacher." "Mrs. Hill?" she teased. "Actually," he said, brushing dirt from his hands. "You." Lucy laughed softly, then knelt beside him to help gather the cut stems. "I cannot take credit for nature," she said. "The flowers bloom because they are cared for." He looked at her, his expression thoughtful. "That is exactly what you did here. You took something broken and helped it grow again." Their eyes met, and for a moment the world around them seemed to quiet. But before either of them could say more, Ava's voice called from the porch. "Miss Lucy, Daddy, guess what?" Lucy turned, smiling. "What is it, sweetheart?" Ava ran toward them, waving a piece of paper. "I won first place in the art contest. They said I could bring my family to the ceremony at the museum next weekend." "Oh, that is wonderful," Lucy said, hugging her. "We are so proud of you." Adam knelt beside them both. "Looks like we will need to dress up again," he said, smiling. "Maybe this time I will even wear something colorful." Ava giggled. "You never wear color." He laughed. "Then maybe I will start." The following weekend arrived with bright skies and the scent of early summer in the air. The art exhibit was crowded with parents and children, the walls lined with colorful drawings. Ava's winning piece hung near the center, a painting of 3 figures holding hands beneath a tree. Above them, she had written in careful letters, "Home is not a place, it is people." Lucy felt tears sting her eyes as she read the words. "You made this?" she asked softly. Ava nodded proudly. "It is us, you, Daddy, and me." Adam looked at the painting for a long moment, emotion flickering behind his composed expression. "You captured it perfectly," he said finally. "You have your mother's talent, but your heart, that is all yours." After the ceremony, the 3 of them went for ice cream at the small cafe down the street, the same one where Lucy had once sat alone on a rainy afternoon months ago, wondering what she was doing in this strange new life. Now, sitting across from Adam and Ava, that uncertainty was gone. As Ava happily stirred sprinkles into her cup, Adam leaned closer. "You know," he said quietly, "I used to think everything in life had to be planned, controlled, but you taught me that sometimes the best things happen when we let go." Lucy smiled softly. "I just reminded you that life is not a business deal." He chuckled. "No, it is not. But if it were, I would say I got the best deal of my life." Her cheeks warmed. "You really need to stop saying things like that in public." "Why?" he asked with a grin. "Is it working?" Before Lucy could answer, Ava interrupted, her voice filled with excitement. "Daddy, can we go to the park after this? I want to fly my new kite." "Of course," Adam said. "Miss Lucy, what do you say?" Lucy smiled. "I say that sounds perfect." They spent the rest of the afternoon in the park, running across the grass as the kite soared high into the blue sky. Adam laughed as Ava tugged on the string, shouting with joy. Lucy stood beside him, her heart swelling with quiet gratitude. When the sun began to set, Ava lay on the blanket between them, her eyes growing heavy. "This is the best day ever," she murmured sleepily. "It is," Adam said softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Because you made it that way." Lucy watched him for a moment, the golden light outlining his face, and something inside her shifted again, a certainty she could no longer deny. Later that night, when Ava was asleep, Lucy stepped out onto the balcony. The city lights shimmered in the distance, but her thoughts were full of the day, the laughter, the painting, the way Adam had looked at her in the park. She did not hear him approach until his voice broke the quiet. "Could not sleep either?" She turned to find him standing beside her, hands in his pockets. "No," she said softly. "Just thinking." "About what?" "About how far we have come," she said, "and how sometimes the best stories are the ones no one expected." He nodded slowly. "Ours definitely fits that description." Then, after a pause, he said the words that hung between them like a promise. "Lucy, this stopped being a story a long time ago. It is real now. You are real, and I do not ever want to lose that." She met his gaze, her heart steady. "Then do not." For a long moment, they stood together in the quiet night, the sound of the wind rustling through the trees below. In that stillness, the line between fate and choice disappeared, leaving only the truth they both had come to understand. Love was not something they found, it was something they built, one honest moment at a time. The following morning, sunlight spilled softly across the Carter mansion, gliding over the polished floors and brightening the walls that once held shadows of silence. Lucy awoke to the sound of laughter drifting in from the hallway. Ava's laughter, light and unguarded, mixed with Adam's deeper tone. It was the kind of sound that made a house feel like a home. She smiled as she stepped out of her room, finding them in the kitchen. Adam was attempting to pour pancake batter into heart shapes, while Ava clapped her hands in amusement. "You have to turn it faster, Daddy," Ava said. Adam laughed. "Your instructions are much clearer than the recipe, sweetheart." "Oh." Lucy leaned against the doorway. "Should I even ask what is happening here?" Adam turned toward her, smiling. "A breakfast experiment. I am trying to impress my two favorite critics." "Then good luck," Lucy teased, walking over. "We are tough to please." It was a small, ordinary moment, yet it felt like everything that mattered. After breakfast, Adam drove Ava to school, while Lucy prepared a presentation for a new community project. The foundation had expanded rapidly over the past few months, and she was now leading an initiative to provide scholarships for underprivileged children. The project had become her passion, a way to turn her gratitude into action. Later that afternoon, she met Adam at the foundation's downtown office. He was standing by the window, phone pressed to his ear, his expression serious but calm. When he finished the call, he turned toward her. "How did the meeting with the city board go?" he asked. "Better than expected," she said. "They approved the land use permit. The first learning center can begin construction next month." He smiled, genuine pride shining in his eyes. "You did that, Lucy. You made it happen." She shook her head. "We did it. This is what happens when people believe in something bigger than themselves." He stepped closer. And when they believe in each other, their eyes met, and for a moment, the hum of the city outside disappeared. But before either could say more, the sound of a knock on the door broke the moment. Robert Hale entered, his expression guarded but polite. "Adam, Lucy," he greeted with forced cordiality. Adam's voice was even. "What brings you here, Robert?" "I came to deliver this," Robert said, setting a document on the desk. "My resignation, effective immediately." Lucy glanced at Adam, surprised. "You are leaving the company?" Robert exhaled slowly. "I made mistakes, big ones. I thought exposing you would make me powerful. But the truth is, all it did was remind me of what power is not." Adam studied him for a long moment. "What changed your mind?" Robert's voice softened. "Your speech. The way the public responded. I realized people do not follow strength, they follow sincerity. You showed that." Lucy could see the sincerity in his face, the humility of someone trying to rebuild what he had broken. "Then maybe this is your chance to start over," she said quietly. Robert nodded. "Maybe it is. I just wanted to say I am sorry. For everything." Adam extended his hand. "Apology accepted." After Robert left, Lucy looked at Adam. "Do you think he means it?" "I think everyone deserves one chance to mean it," Adam replied. That evening, they returned home to find Ava sitting at the dining table, surrounded by construction paper and crayons. "Miss Lucy, Daddy, look," she said proudly, holding up a hand-drawn certificate. "It says best family in the world." "Oh," Lucy's heart melted. "You made this?" Ava nodded. "For both of you." "Because you always make everything better." Adam knelt beside her, his voice full of warmth. "I think we just got the best award we could ever win." Later that night, after Ava was asleep, Lucy stood by the large window in the living room, watching the city lights flicker. Adam joined her, carrying 2 cups of tea. "You look thoughtful," he said. I am, she admitted. Sometimes I think about how much has changed. A few months ago, I was just trying to save a daycare, and now, this. He handed her the cup, his gaze steady. You saved more than a daycare, Lucy. You saved me. You saved this family. She met his eyes. You saved me too. They stood together in quiet understanding, the kind that did not need words. The wind outside rustled softly through the trees, carrying the faint sound of Ava's laughter from upstairs. After a moment, Adam spoke again, his tone sincere. Do you ever think about what comes next? Lucy looked out the window, then back at him. Every day. But for once, I am not afraid of it. He smiled, the corners of his eyes softening. Neither am I. The house around them was still and peaceful, filled with the quiet hum of life moving forward. For months, they had lived under contracts, headlines, and expectations. Now, there was only the truth, a family built not by chance, but by choice. As the night deepened, Lucy rested her head against Adam's shoulder. For the first time in a long time, there was no pretending, no fear, no distance. Just the steady heartbeat of something real, proof that love, when nurtured with honesty, could bloom again even after the hardest seasons. And in that stillness, surrounded by the echoes of all they had overcome, Lucy realized that this peace, this warmth, this imperfect but genuine life was what forever was supposed to feel like. The following weeks moved gently, like pages of a book being turned by a calm breeze. Life inside the Carter mansion had settled into something beautifully ordinary: morning breakfasts, school drop-offs, and evenings filled with laughter and small routines. The chaos of the past felt distant now, replaced by quiet stability. One Friday morning, Lucy woke early to the soft sound of rain against the windows. She slipped into the kitchen and started brewing coffee. The smell filled the air, warm and comforting. Moments later, Adam entered, still in his robe, holding a folder. You are up early, he said. So are you, Lucy replied, smiling. Business never sleeps? He chuckled. Not when you are planning something this big. She raised an eyebrow. Something big? Adam set the folder on the counter. The Foundation's new education center. I was reviewing the final proposal. We are ready to break ground next month. Lucy's eyes lit up. That is incredible. Do you realize how many lives this will change? I do, he said softly. But it would not exist without you. She shook her head. You gave it the resources. I just gave it a heartbeat. Adam smiled at that. Then together, we gave it purpose. Their quiet moment was interrupted by the sound of small footsteps rushing down the stairs. Ava ran into the kitchen, her hair a playful mess. Miss Lucy! Daddy! Guess what? What is it, sweetheart? Lucy asked. Ava held out a sealed envelope. My teacher said I get to read a poem at the school's spring program. Can you both come? Of course we will, Adam said immediately. We would not miss it for the world. The program was scheduled for the following week, and Ava practiced her poem every evening. She stood in the living room, reciting it with wide eyes and dramatic gestures while Adam and Lucy watched from the couch, clapping each time she finished. On the night of the event, the school auditorium was filled with proud parents. Lucy and Adam sat in the second row, surrounded by families. When Ava stepped onto the small stage, wearing a white dress and holding her note card, Lucy's hands clasped together tightly. Ava's voice rang clear and confident as she began. My poem is called What Home Means. She paused, glancing toward the audience, then smiled when she spotted her father and Lucy. Home is where the lights stay on when you are scared, she began softly. Home is where people wait for you, even if you are late. Home is where love is not a secret, it is something you can see. As she finished, the crowd erupted in applause. Adam's eyes glistened with pride. Lucy wiped a tear from her cheek, her heart full. After the event, Ava ran into their arms. Did I do good? She asked breathlessly. You did perfect, Adam said, kissing her forehead. You reminded everyone what love sounds like. The three of them walked out into the cool evening air, the stars beginning to shimmer above. Lucy looked up, breathing in the quiet joy of the moment. Later that weekend, the Foundation held the groundbreaking ceremony for the new education center. Reporters gathered again, but this time not for scandal, only celebration. Lucy stood beside Adam on the small stage, watching as he addressed the crowd. When we began this journey, he said, his voice steady. We were not just building structures. We were rebuilding faith in kindness, in second chances, and in one another. This project began because of one woman's belief that love and opportunity can grow in the same place. That woman is my wife, Lucy Carter. Applause rippled through the crowd. Lucy felt her face flush, but when she met Adam's gaze, there was nothing performative in it. His words were simple, true, and full of quiet gratitude. When the cameras clicked and the ceremony ended, Adam and Lucy walked through the construction site together, helmets tucked under their arms. I was not expecting that speech, she said softly. Every word was true, he replied. You have changed how I see everything. Lucy smiled. You always say that. Because it keeps being true, he said. They paused near the edge of the site, where the city skyline stretched beyond them. The afternoon light painted everything in shades of gold. Adam turned toward her, his voice low. Lucy, there is something I have been meaning to ask. Her heartbeat quickened. What is it? He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. When he opened it, a simple gold ring glimmered in the fading light. Her breath caught. Adam, he smiled softly. When we started this, we signed papers to make it look real. But now, I want to make it real for every reason that matters. Not for the company, not for appearances, for us. Tears filled her eyes as he took her hand. You do not have to. I know, he said. But I want to. For a moment, the world around them seemed to fade the reporters, the city noise, the rush of time. All that remained was the quiet truth between them. Lucy's voice trembled, but her words were certain. Yes, Adam. 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger, and the crowd nearby began to cheer. Ava, standing with Mrs. Hill a few feet away, clapped her hands and shouted, I knew it. I knew it was for love this time. Adam laughed and lifted her into his arms as Lucy smiled through happy tears. That evening, as they returned home together, Lucy looked at the small gold ring, and then at the two people beside her, the man who had taught her trust again, and the little girl who had given her a reason to stay. The contract that had once been a shield had turned into a promise, and in that promise, Lucy realized something she had always believed but never fully lived. Love built on truth was the only kind that could last forever. The days after Adam's proposal felt like living in the soft glow of a sunrise, steady, warm, and full of quiet joy. The mansion was no longer just a house of marble and glass. It was alive with laughter, color, and light. Ava decorated the walls with drawings of hearts and rings, proudly telling everyone at school that her daddy and Miss Lucy were getting married for real this time. The story that had once been a scandal now became a celebration. News outlets called it the Carter Redemption, though Lucy and Adam paid little attention to headlines anymore. What mattered to them was the peace that followed the feeling of life moving forward, not out of obligation, but out of love. The wedding was planned to be small and intimate, nothing like the glamorous ceremonies one might expect from a man of Adam's status. He wanted it that way. This time, he told Lucy, it is not about proving anything. It is about choosing everything that matters. They decided to hold the ceremony in the garden behind the mansion, the same place where Lucy had once taught Ava to plant flowers and where Adam had learned how to smile without pretending. On the morning of the wedding, the sky was painted with soft gold and pale blue. Lucy stood by the mirror in her room, wearing a simple white dress made of satin and lace. Mrs. Hill helped her adjust the veil, while Ava twirled around in her little pink dress. You look like a princess, Miss Lucy, Ava said, her voice full of wonder. Lucy smiled. And you, my love, look like the star of the story. When the music began to play in the garden, guests rose from their seats. The aisle was lined with fresh roses, their petals glistening in the sunlight. At the end stood Adam, dressed in a classic black suit, his expression calm but full of emotion. As Lucy walked toward him, time seemed to slow. Every step echoed with the memories of how far they had come from a $5 misunderstanding to a love that had survived every test. When she finally reached him, Adam took her hands in his eyes glistening with quiet certainty. You once told me, he said softly, that love is not something you find, but something you build. I did not understand it then, but I do now. You built this for us, Lucy for me and for Ava, and I promise, for the rest of my life, I will keep building it with you. Lucy's eyes shimmered with tears as she replied, her voice steady. You showed me that love is not about grand gestures, but about showing up every day with kindness, with truth, and with faith. You are my home, Adam Carter. Always have been, always will be. Ava stood beside them, holding a small pillow with the rings. When they exchanged vows, the little girl smiled so wide it seemed the whole garden glowed with her joy. When the officiant finally said, "You may kiss the bride," Adam hesitated for half a heartbeat, then leaned forward and kissed Lucy with quiet tenderness. The guests erupted in applause, and Ava clapped her hands, laughing. See? I told you it was for love this time. Oh. After the ceremony, the three of them walked hand in hand through the garden as the guests mingled behind them. The roses swayed gently in the breeze, and the air was filled with the faint sound of soft music. Are you happy? Adam asked, glancing at Lucy. She smiled, her eyes reflecting the sunlight. Completely. I never thought life could feel this simple and this full at the same time. Ava tugged at Adam's sleeve. Daddy, does this mean we can have pancakes every Sunday forever? Adam laughed. Every Sunday and maybe even Saturdays if Miss Lucy agrees. Lucy laughed. As long as you promise to be the one flipping them. Deal, he said, grinning. As evening fell, lanterns lit the garden in warm golden hues. The guests danced, but Adam and Lucy found a quiet corner beneath the willow tree. The laughter and music faded into the distance, leaving only the soft hum of the night. Adam took her hand again. Do you ever think about that day at the cafe, the one where all this began? Lucy smiled. I do. I think about how a $5 mistake turned into a lifetime. He nodded. Fate has a strange sense of humor. Or maybe, she said softly, fate just waits for us to be brave enough to say yes. He looked at her then, not as the woman who had once been part of an arrangement, but as the woman who had changed the rhythm of his life entirely. Thank you, he said simply. For what? She asked. For showing me what real love looks like. She leaned her head against his shoulder, her voice gentle. You showed me too. In the distance, Ava's laughter floated through the air, light and free. The garden glowed softly beneath the stars, and the sound of life carried on around them. It was not the grand ending the world expected, it was better. It was honest, it was peaceful. As the night deepened, Adam, Lucy, and Ava stood together beneath the lanterns, their hands intertwined. What had started as a contract had become a promise, and that promise had finally become a forever. For the first time in a long time, there was no pretense, no fear, no distance, only love, real and earned, glowing steady as the light of home. Morning sunlight streamed gently through the tall windows of the Carter mansion, spilling warmth across the wooden floors. The house was quiet except for the soft clatter of dishes in the kitchen and the hum of peaceful life unfolding. It had been several months since the wedding, but every morning still felt like a new beginning. Lucy stood by the counter, wearing one of Adam's shirts over her pajamas, as she poured orange juice into 3 glasses. Behind her, Ava was setting the table, humming the same tune she had sung at the wedding. Adam walked in, still adjusting his cufflinks, and paused for a moment just to take in the sight his daughter, his wife, his home. You know, he said with a teasing smile, I could get used to this view every morning. Lucy turned, amused. You already have. He walked over, kissed her cheek, and whispered. And I never planned to get tired of it. Ava giggled, covering her eyes. Ew, Daddy. You are so mushy. Lucy laughed, handing her a plate of pancakes. Do not listen to him, sweetheart. That is just how grown-ups say thank you. After breakfast, the 3 of them drove out to the Foundation's newly finished education center for its grand opening. The building stood tall and bright, surrounded by children from the neighborhood who had come to see their new classrooms. Lucy stood at the podium with Adam beside her and Ava holding her hand. Her voice was calm and full of emotion as she spoke to the small crowd. This place is proof that second chances are real. Not just for people, but for dreams. Sometimes, life gives us a path we never expected, and if we are brave enough to walk it with honesty and love, it can lead us exactly where we are meant to be. The audience applauded warmly. Adam looked at her with quiet pride, and Ava squeezed her hand tightly, whispering, You did amazing, Miss Lucy. Oh, when the ribbon was cut and the ceremony ended, the three of them walked through the halls together, passing rooms filled with color, books, and laughter. The sound of children echoed through the building, a sound that felt like the heartbeat of everything they had built. Later that evening, back at home, the sky was painted in shades of gold and pink. Adam and Lucy sat on the porch swing, while Ava played in the garden, chasing fireflies. "Do you ever miss the way things used to be?" Lucy asked softly. Adam shook his head. "No, because back then, I did not know what it meant to really live." She smiled. "And now?" "Now," he said, taking her hand, "I know that happiness is not found in boardrooms or balance sheets. It is found right here, in the small moments we choose to hold on to." Lucy rested her head on his shoulder, watching Ava run through the fading light. The sound of her laughter mixed with the soft hum of the evening. In that moment, everything came full circle, the mistake that started it all, the contract that became love, the walls that turned into a home. Adam glanced at Lucy and whispered, "We began as a story written by circumstance, but we ended as one written by choice." She smiled, her voice tender. "And that is the only story worth telling." Lo! As the first stars appeared above them, the Carters sat together in the quiet glow of twilight, no longer a story of pretense, but a living testament that love built on kindness, honesty, and courage will always find its way home. And this time, it truly was forever.